The troubled external environment will create new stresses and strains on our society. High inflation because of the Ukraine war will cause difficulties for many households, especially lower and middle-income families. Tensions between China and the US will expose our population to emotional pulls, commercial pressures, and influence campaigns from one side or the other to take their point of view and support their cause. The fracturing of the global trading system will mean slower, more uncertain growth and greater disruption to industries and jobs, to businesses and workers. We must not allow these pressures to divide Singaporeans along fault lines in our society, whether old or new, like the haves versus the have-nots, the liberals versus the conservatives, the locals versus the foreigners, new versus old citizens, and above all, differences between races and religions. In this new troubled world, it is all the more important for us to close ranks. Divided, we stand no chance. We must do our best to see eye to eye on the fundamentals and try to appreciate each other's perspectives, even if we cannot always agree. We must not shy away from hard choices, but deal squarely with difficult issues based on facts and sound analysis. We must nurture the deep and precious trust that we have between the government and the people, and also among Singaporeans, and work hand in hand towards a shared vision of our future. But we're not just asking Singaporeans to work harder as individuals. We have a strategy to make a living for our nation as a global city and an international hub. It'll be tough because globalization is going the wrong way. Countries with larger populations and bigger domestic markets are turning inwards. It will cost them, but maybe they can afford to do so. But Singapore cannot turn inwards. We are a small island state, a little red dot. And that is our reality. Our survival depends on our being able to do business with the world to deliver value to others. So our strategy must be to double down on staying open and connected to the world and continue making ourselves useful as a global city and international hub. We must work hard to form good relations with other countries, big and small, and find ways to work with them. Even with wars, tensions, and protectionism in the world, countries still need to trade, there will still be opportunities, and therefore we can still make a living. We just have to work harder and smarter than before. In a world of troubles, not every country will prosper, but Singapore will not perish. It will be challenging. We'll feel tensions, we'll experience disruptions, we'll have to manage the problems and deal with the trade-offs thoughtfully and sensibly. But we have some things going for us. Most importantly, we stand out compared to competitors, which brings me to my next point. We must uphold Singapore's good reputation and standing in the world. When I meet foreign leaders and business people, whether here or on my trips abroad, many express their admiration for Singapore. They are not just being polite, they are effusive. They talk about having read Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's books. They tell me how they wish their countries could become like Singapore. Many Singaporeans take this good reputation for granted. They are glad to carry our red passport. Overseas, they are proud to identify themselves as Singaporeans and not be mistaken as someone else. But they do not realize how important this high standing we enjoy is to us, nor how astonishing it is for a small island state with no natural resources to enjoy this standing. This is a precious asset in an uncertain world. So I ask all Singaporeans, through you, Mr. Speaker, to uphold our country's reputation, especially when you are overseas. Make full use of the Singapore brand, but remember, never sully it. Build on it, enhance it for future generations. A high international reputation makes all the difference to Singapore. But there's no formula that can guarantee that our system will continue to work well for the long term. It's equally essential and hard to keep the whole system working through the decades. To ensure good leadership for the long term is an unending and demanding challenge for successive generations. The 4G team is in place. Last year, the 4G ministers chose DPM Wong to be their leader. I ask you to give Lawrence and the 4G ministers your fullest support. I ask you to give them your fullest support for now as members of my team, but in due course when they take over the reins as the next leadership for Singapore. Help me make this leadership succession, this leadership renewal, a success for Singapore and for you. Show your support for a government that works hard and works well for you. Elect leaders whom you can trust to take us forward. Give yourselves the best chance to keep our system working well for Singaporeans for many years to come. We are heading into a troubled world. There's much work to be done and to be done quickly. Our forefathers worked hard to build up the Singapore that we have today. We too must embrace their can-do spirit and outsized ambition to be an extraordinary country, an exceptional place in the world.